Okay, now we are on the last book of the Anguttara Nikaya. Now we come to Sutta number 10.63. And the Buddha said, monks, whosoever have come to the goal in me, all of them are endowed with right view. Of 5 such endowed with right view, their goal is one here. Of other such 5, their goal is one on leaving here. Let's stop here for a moment to comment. Here they translate as goal. The Pali word is nitta, and it means the end, the completion, the finish. It means attaining nibbana. And here, view or right view means understanding the 4 noble truths. And here, Ida means, here they put brackets on earth. It means in the human existence, as a human existence. And then leaving here, vihaya, the Pali word, also means having left here. That means not in the human existence. So, the Buddha is saying, all those who have come to the goal in him or through him, all of them have right view. That means he's talking about Arya. All Aryans have right view. And then 5 types of Aryans, they attain Nibbana here in the human existence. And then another 5, they attain Nibbana upon after leaving here. That means in the heaven world. And then the Buddha continues, of which 5 is the goal one here? Of him who has but 7 more births at most, of him who is reborn in a good family, of the one seeder, of the once returner, Sakadagamin, and of him who in this same visible state is Arahant. Of such the goal is one here. And of which 5 is the goal one on leaving here? Of him who attains release midway, of him who attains release by reduction of his time, or without much trouble, or with some little trouble, and of the upstreamer who goes to the elders. Of such the goal is one on leaving here. Whosoever monks have come to the goal in me, all of them are endowed with right view. Of 5 such the goal is one here. Of other such 5 the goal is one after leaving here. Now this sutta is one of those suttas, if you think carefully about it, it has very far-reaching implications. Here the Buddha is saying that there are 5 types of Aryans who attain Nibbana in the human existence. There are 3 types of Sotapanna described here. The first type is one who has 7 more rebirths at the most. Then the second type is one who is reborn among noble families 2 or 3 times. And the third type of Sotapanna is one who just takes one rebirth as a man and then makes an end of dukkha. So there are 3 types of Sotapanna, and then the Sakadagamin is the once returner. That is a second fruit Arya. Then the last one is Arahant. These are those who attain Nibbana in the human existence. Now, this sutta, firstly, the first implication is that all Aryans have right view. This is confirmed in other suttas. Now, how does one attain right view? In the Majjhima Nikaya, Sutta 43, it is said that right view is attained by listening to the Dhamma, and then having yoniso manasikara is the other condition. Yoniso manasikara means the ability to have thorough consideration or thorough contemplation. That means a person's mind is fairly clear so that he can consider thoroughly. And so you can see all the Buddha's disciples who are Aryans, they listen to the Dhamma first to get right view. That's why the Buddha's disciples are called Savakas, meaning hearers or listeners. Now, so this 5 types of Aryans attain Nibbana in this life. The other 5 types of Aryans who attain Nibbana after leaving here, there are 5 types described here. All of them are Anagamins, third fruit attainers. And all Anagamins Anagamins are generally reborn in the Suddhavasa abode, the 4th jhana heavens. And from there they enter Nibbana. So if they enter Nibbana from there, that means they don't become Arahants, They don't become Arahants. They just enter Nibbana upon passing away. Because it is said here that all Arahants enter Nibbana as a human being. Now this contradicts the Abhidhamma, because in the Abhidhamma it is stated that when the Buddha taught the Abhidhamma, millions of devas attain arahanthood. Now, if they attain arahanthood as devas, that means they will enter Nibbana as an arahant deva. But the Buddha says here that all arahants are humans. That is why you notice that all Buddhas come to the human plane to teach the Dhamma. Buddhas are never reborn in heaven to teach the devas. Always come to the human plane. Now this implication of Sotapanna and attaining Nibbana, this has never been well explained in Buddhist texts. And here we see that there are some who have 7 more rebirths. After 7 more rebirths, when they pass away, they enter Nibbana. And there are some who come back to the human plane and reborn as in a noble family 2 or 3 times, and then they enter Nibbana. Then the last type is one who takes 1 more birth as a human being and then enters Nibbana. Now this last one is quite interesting because he has only 1 human birth as a human being. And we know from other suttas, for example, Anguttara Nikaya 3.85, that the Sotapanna, the first fruit Arya, and the Sakadagamin, the second fruit Arya, they only have perfect moral conduct. They only have perfect sila. They don't have samadhi and panya. Whereas the Anagamin, the third fruit Arya, has perfect sila and perfect samadhi, attains jhana. And the Arahant has perfect sila, samadhi and panya. So a Sotapanna having only sila, how does he enter Nibbana? We see from the Buddha's own experience in the Gatikara Sutta, Majjhima Nikaya, that the Buddha in a previous life was born as a Brahmin, Jotipala, and there he met the Buddha Kassapa. And then when the Buddha Kassapa taught him the Dhamma, he changed completely. From having no respect for the Buddha, he became a disciple of the Buddha and renounced and became a monk. So from there we can see very probably the Buddha in that lifetime as Jotipala had attained Sotapanna. And then after that he followed the Buddha as a monk and he attained jhana. Why we say he attained jhana? Because when he was reborn in his last life as a human being, he said that when he was very young, he attained the first jhana under the jambu tree. So for him, so young to attain jhana, that means previous life, he had already attained jhana. That means very probably under Buddha Kassapa, he had attained jhana. So if he had attained jhana, very probably also he became a Sakadagamin. And after becoming a Sakadagamin, he went to the Tusita heaven. And after the Tusita heaven, he came down to the human existence for the very last time. So we can see from here, from the Buddha's example, that probably all Arahants, all Buddhas, because Buddhas are self-enlightened beings, they strive very hard, like our Buddha, and they became enlightened. And there is something in them from the previous life that makes them strive very hard, which is, then that something must be that they have already become Arya in the previous life. So from this sutta we find that Sotapannas, since they attain Nibbana in this lifetime, that means some of them at least would attain Arahanthood. Especially, for example, the last type of Sotapanna, the one who comes back once only as a human being, probably he strives and then attains Arahanthood or Buddhahood, and then enters Nibbana. So the same with Sakadagamin. Sakadagamin also, because they come back only once as a human being, very probably that last time they strive and then they attain Arahanthood or Buddhahood, and then enter Nibbana. And then the other 5 who attain Nibbana in the heavens, these Anagamin, the 5 types of Anagamin, there is a simile given in some other sutta on the Anagamin. It is stated that the Anagamin is like a piece of heated metal, which a blacksmith is hitting. A blacksmith is hitting a red hot piece of metal, and then a chip of iron flies off, and this chip of iron flies off to the ground, and then it cools down. That is a simile for an Anagamin. That means an Anagamin, he goes to the Suddhavasa abode and cools down there and enters Nibbana. So there are some Anagamins who, when they go to the Suddhavasa abodes, the 4th jhana heavens, they strive, and then they enter Nibbana very fast. There are some who don't make much effort to strive, and then they enter Nibbana more slowly. That's why you have these 5 types of Anagamin. Now, in the later books, they talk about the Buddhas making vows and cultivating paramis for a long time, and then they become Buddhas. But there is no such evidence in the suttas. All we have in the suttas is that a person becomes an Arya from listening to the Dhamma, and after becoming an Arya, then a person progresses from Sotapanna and either enters Nibbana or becomes a Sakadagamin and then enters Nibbana, or Anagamin or Arahant and they enter Nibbana. So actually, if this type of sutta, if we contemplate more on it, you can even find probably other implications if we consider some more on a sutta like this. So this type of suttas are very interesting because when we contemplate them, we find there are certain implications that have not been noticed by some of the monks who wrote the later commentaries. That is why their interpretation sometimes does not follow the suttas. They can come up with things like the Buddha became a Buddha by making vows and cultivating paramis. Now we come to the next sutta, Sutta 69, 10.69. Once the Exalted One was staying near Savatthi at Jeta Grove in Anathapindika's park. On that occasion, a number of monks, after returning from their alms round and eating their meal, had gathered and sat down in the assembly hall. There they stayed, indulging in diverse sorts of aimless talk about such things as rajas or kings, robbers and ministers, talk of armies, dangers and battle, talk of food and drink, clothes, beds, garlands and perfumes, talk of relatives, vehicles, villages, townships, cities and countries, talk about women and heroes, about streets and gossip at the well, ghost stories, trifles and about the origin of land and sea, and whether things exist or do not exist. Stop here for a moment. Here the monks were talking all this aimless talk, which is called Tirachana Kata. It means animal talk. Animal talk. Why is it called animal talk? Because it is like base, low. Animal is considered very low. So this low type of talk. Then the Exalted One, rising from his solitude in the evening, went towards the assembly hall, and on reaching it sat down on a seat made ready. Being seated, the Exalted One addressed the monks, saying, "Monks, on what subjects were you conversing, gathered together here, and what was the nature of the talk left unfinished by you?" And they said, "Sir, after returning from our alms round and eating our meal, we gathered and sat down in the assembly hall, and so stayed, indulging in diverse sorts of pointless talk, such as rajas, etc." And the Buddha said, "Monks, it is not seemly that you clansmen, who in faith have gone forth from the home to the homeless life, should indulge in such talk. There are these 10 topics of talk." What 10? Talk about having few wants, about contentment, seclusion, solitude, energetic striving, virtue, concentration, wisdom, release or liberation, and knowing and seeing release. These, monks, are the 10 topics of talk. Monks, if you should engage again and again in talk on these 10 topics, you would outshine in brilliance even the brilliance of the moon and sun, which are of such mighty power and majesty, not to speak of the brilliance of the wanderers who hold other views. That's the end of the sutta. So here the Buddha is encouraging the monks to talk on 10 topics which are very beneficial to them. The first one is having few wants, or wanting little or having few wants. Not wanting many things. About contentment, about seclusion. Seclusion is going to a quiet place to live, for example, in a forest monastery or in a cave. And then solitude. Solitude is like keeping to yourself. For example, in a monastery there might be many monks. So if a monk wants to practice very hard, he doesn't want to talk a lot with other monks. He keeps to himself. And then energetic striving, using a lot of energy to practice. And then virtue. Virtue, this moral conduct, sila. Concentration, wisdom, and then liberation, and knowing and seeing liberation. So these are the 10 types of talks which are very conducive to progress in the holy life. Now the next sutta is 10.72. Once the Exalted One was staying near Vesali in Great Grove, at the house with the peaked roof, together with a number of senior monks who were his disciples, namely the Venerable Chala, Upachala, Kakata, Kalimba, Nikata, and Katisaha, and other notable monks. Now on that occasion, a crowd of notable Lichavis, riding in their splendid cars in rivalry, with din and uproar, were dashing into great wood to see the Exalted One. Then those venerable ones thought, "Here is a crowd of notable Lichavis, dashing into great wood to see the Exalted One." Now it has been said by the Exalted One that noise is a thorn to jhana. Suppose we retreat to Gosinga wood, where is the Sala grove. There we can stay pleasantly, free from noise and crowds. Stop here for a moment. Jhana here is the state. Jhana means a state of mental brightness, and it is attained when one's mind becomes one-pointed, and that is perfect concentration in the Buddha's teaching. So these monks, they said that all this noise is a disturbance to attaining jhana, is an obstruction or thorn to attaining jhana. So they wanted to go to the Sala grove, where it was very quiet and they could practice. So those venerable ones retreated to Gosinga wood, where is the Sala grove, and there they stayed pleasantly, free from noise and crowds. Later on, the Exalted One called to the monks, saying, "Monks, where is Chala? Where is Upachala? Where are Kakata and Kalimba, Nikata and Katisaha? Where are those monks, my senior disciples, gone?" And they said, "As to that, sir, it occurred to those venerable ones. Here is a crowd of notable Lichavis riding in their splendid cars in rivalry with din and uproar, dashing into great wood to see the Exalted One. Now it has been said by the Exalted One that noise is a thorn to jhana. Suppose we retreat to Gosinga wood, where is the Sala grove. There we can stay pleasantly, free from noise and crowds. So, sir, those venerable ones are gone there. There they are staying pleasantly, free from noise and crowds." And the Buddha said, "Well said, monks, well said. Those who should assert what those great disciples have asserted would rightly do so. Indeed, monks, I have said that noise is a thorn to jhana. There are these 10 thorns, monks. What 10? To one who delights in seclusion, delight in society is a thorn. To one devoted to concentration on the sign of the unattractiveness, concentration on the sign of the attractiveness is a thorn. To one guarding the doors of the sense faculties, the sight of shows is a thorn. To the holy life, consorting with women is a thorn. To the first jhana, noise is a thorn. To the second jhana, thought directed and sustained is a thorn. To the third jhana, delight or pity is a thorn. To the fourth jhana, breathing, in-breathing and out-breathing is a thorn. To the attainment of cessation of perception and feeling are a thorn. Lust, hatred and delusion are thorns. So monks, do you abide thornless? Do you abide thorn removers? Do you abide thornless thorn removers? Monks, the thornless are arahants. The thornless thorn removers are arahants. That's the end of the sutta. So here the Buddha is saying, for a monk who delights in seclusion, delight in society is a thorn. To one devoted to concentration on the sign of the unattractiveness, here it means the unattractiveness of the body. And then the sign of the attractiveness of the body is a thorn to progress in that meditation. To one guarding the doors of the sense faculties, the sight of shows, seeing shows like TV and all that is a thorn. To the holy life, consorting with women is a thorn. And this one is quite a fact, because many monks who disrobe, they do so because of some women. Many times a monk disrobes because of having become too familiar with some women, and then some emotion or feeling develops. And then sometimes a monk, he finds the holy life quite difficult. So sometimes they disrobe and marry some woman. To the first jhana, thoughts, noise is a thorn. If you want to attain the first jhana, you must stay in a quiet place. If you stay in a city area with a lot of sounds and all that, it's very difficult to attain. To the second jhana, thought directed and sustained. Because thought directed and sustained is one of the factors of the first jhana. So when you want to attain to the second jhana, you must let go of those thoughts. To the third jhana, delight, piti, is a thorn. Because in the third jhana there is no more delight, piti. For the fourth jhana, breathing is a thorn. Because a person who attains the fourth jhana, the breathing stops. And then to the attainment of the cessation of perception and feeling, perception and feeling are a thorn. This cessation of perception and feeling is just like nibbana, where the consciousness stops. So when the normal six consciousness stops, and then this perception and feeling also stop. So if you still have perception and feeling, that means you cannot enter that state of cessation. And then lust, hatred, and delusion are thorns. So the Buddha said, if a monk gets rid of all these thorns, then he can become an arahant.